Loneliness versus neediness. Everyone gets lonely sometimes. Being alone is usually harder on extroverts than it is on introverts, but everyone experiences it. Common loneliness ameliorates somewhat with sensory stimulation. In other words, if you're feeling lonely and you get some kind of sensory stimulation, it can be auditory, listening to music, or watching something visual, or some kind of social cues, the loneliness will subside. Now, emotional neediness manifests when the sense of self is diminished and emotions are dysregulated. That means you get upset or depressed by being alone. You can't even focus on sensory stimulation. Distracted partners are interpreted as rejecting. Disagreement feels like betrayal. The telltale sign of neediness is when I'm with the person I seem to need, satisfaction is short-lived. There's a kind of relief once I'm back with that person, but it doesn't last. It gives way to boredom or conflict. We start picking on each other. Now, the implicit thoughts that go with emotional neediness, when I'm alone or when someone is not focused on me, there's something wrong with me. I'm unloved. I have little confidence. I worry about the future. I'm not sure of who I am. And worst of all, I feel nervous, empty, inadequate, unlovable. Now, certain relationship dynamics form around emotional neediness, and it's unusual that you will get only one emotionally needy person in a relationship, but they tend to be emotionally needy in different ways. The first dynamic is rescuer-persecutor. One needy party is emboldened by rescuing another. Now, rescuing almost always fails, and when it fails, the rescuer often blames the rescued and become a persecutor. I feel bad because my rescuing didn't work, so I'm going to find something wrong with you. You're insatiable. Nobody can meet your needs. There's something really terribly wrong with you. Seducer-Abuser. One needy partner goes full steam at seducing the other, and that can be with charm, gifts, sex, money, status. But once they're seduced, then the seducer begins dwelling on faults in the person they've seduced. Pursuer-Distancer. One partner wants more connection and intimacy than the other can tolerate. Pursuers don't decide how much closeness they really want. They just keep chasing, lest the distancer get too far away. Distancers want their partners close, but not too close. Because if they get too close, they'll see how empty I really am. Now, the roles often switch, especially at the end of the relationship. So it's not unusual for a pursuer to become a distancer and vice versa. Enmeshment. That's characterized by porous boundaries, high emotional reactivity, diffuse individual identity. I don't know who I am apart from you. I don't know who I am except in relationship to you. They try to control themselves because that kind of self-doubt creates an awful lot of anxiety. So they try to control themselves by controlling each other. Now, neediness is more judgment and perception than psychological condition. Once the brain decides that it needs something or someone, that someone or something assumes the status of food and water. You gotta have it to live. Pursuit of it seems like life or death, with hypervigilance of early signs of deprivation. So you're driven by this high anxiety that you might lose it or might not get it in the first place. Now, the anxiety about the perception of neediness is self-reinforcing. If I'm nervous about not having it, I must really need it. Self-criticism tends to be harsh and unrelenting in the emotionally needy, and that just exacerbates the sense of neediness. The more we devalue ourselves, the more it feels like value has to be poured into us. There's nothing inside of us. It's got to come in. All right, so how do you overcome neediness? First of all, if you perceiving yourself to be emotionally needy, that's really not your fault. It's a developmental thing that happens over time. And you didn't choose to be needy, but you can choose to be more self-sufficient. And that's going to require self-compassion, self-validation, and self-empowerment. Self-compassion is sympathy for bad feelings with motivation to heal and improve. You're going to have a lot of bad feelings if you're emotionally needy. And if you beat yourself up for them or try to blame them on someone or avoid them or deny them, they're just going to get worse. With self-compassion, you have sympathy for them, but it's not just feeling sorry for yourself. You're motivated to do something to make yourself feel better. Just like if you cut your finger, you're motivated to get a Band-Aid or put an antibiotic on it. Self-validation is I know I'm okay when I act on my deeper values. I know I'm worthy of love because I can be compassionate and kind. And those are the things that make you feel lovable. It's not being loved that makes you feel lovable, because if you don't feel lovable, it doesn't even feel good to feel loved. You feel like you're getting something you don't deserve and something you're not sure you can return. So what makes you feel lovable is being compassionate and kind. See, when you validate yourself, you're okay because you know that you do the right thing most of the time and that you can be compassionate and kind. Then you're not so hungry for validation from other people. Self-empowerment requires distinguishing needs from desires, wanting from needing. Desires provide positive motivation. When you recognize you have desires, it automatically goes with those is a motivation to have the desires met. Needs cause obsessions and compulsive behavior. Desires are attractive is another way to put it. Needs are repulsive. Manage disappointment. Disappointment is a part of everyday life. The emotionally needy tend to confuse disappointment with rejection, with devaluation. We have to be able to say, I'm disappointed, but I'm okay. Create value. That means appreciate more. Value isn't in nature or in other people. There's no sign under person or anything beautiful that says appreciate this. It has value only if you give it value, and you give it value by appreciating it. Cultivate connections. That's with family, friends, pets, community, spiritual. The more connected you feel, the less emotionally needy you will be. The perception of neediness is mostly habit. And the solution is to develop habits of self-compassion, self-validation, and self-empowerment. There's courses on healing and emotional growth and anxiety regulation on compassionpower.com.